Hey everyone, we are hosting an immunity boosting seminar here with Dr. Kenneth Groves on March the 15th. We invite you all to come join us at Infinite Motion Dance Studio on Virginia Street to enjoy this incredible information and really learn how you can transform your family's health this year.
Hello everyone, welcome to Artistically Married, where art and opportunity collide. We're your hosts, Jake Ackerman
And Brianne Steinberg.
And today we have Dr. Kenneth Groves back with us again.
Yeah, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I always love coming, chatting health and any random tangents we might go on.
Right, I know, we're prepping before the show. How do we keep this linear? It's too hard. I was so excited to have you on the podcast. We kind of made a goal for ourselves to bring more wellness into the show. People are loving the wellness podcasts episodes. Yeah, so can you share with our audience how you guys are creating kind of this homestead environment for your children and your family, where you guys are really maximizing your light exposure and your experience with nature?
Yeah, good question. So I've actually been a naturopathy doctor for going on 14 years. So I've been helping patients, seeing firsthand like some of their struggles and how they might be able to incorporate nature, particularly sunlight, into their protocols. And then about 5 years ago, we made the choice to move from the city out to the country. And like, we'll touch on it, but in my personal experience, it's been a dramatic shift and change as to like how my nervous system operates and like how I can actually do more just by strategically recharging with sunlight and little morning protocols when I get home in the evening as well too. But like, I give a lot of credit to like some of these treatments that are actually like free, and they're free to all of us.
I know. Yeah. I think that was my huge excitement. I've been really fixated on this over the last, I would say, going on like 3 or 4 months. I guess the obsession just comes from, I think you said something that really sparked, is like, it's almost doing less, right? Mm-hmm. You're like, I'm benefiting from so much more from doing so much less or experiencing so much less.
Yep.
And when we talk about less, we're going to get into it, but it really is less indoor time and more of, doing nothing in nature.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
How much how much value do you place on sunlight, and how does that contribute to our overall health, do you think?
Yes. So I'll tie this back into clinical practice. So over the years, I've developed what I call the 7 S's. These are pillars that I consider foundational for health. And they go above and beyond even supplements. So even though supplement starts with an S, that's actually not one of my S's as part of this. Yeah. So we'll go through them. Sunlight is for sure number 1. Sleep, stress, sugar, sedentary. I call it splash. So I'll break that one down. Social. So those are your 7 S's. And I tell people, if you are dabbling and like at least helping a part of those foundations, your health is going to improve. So like, we'll break down sunlight last year for a second, but sleep. Everyone knows, hey, if I don't get enough sleep, I didn't recharge the system, that kind of stuff. So like, not enough sleep, bad for overall health. Stress, too much of it, excess, chronic stress, having too much day to day, bad for overall health. Sugar, again, little, probably fine. All these added sugars, day to day, we're going to have too much, it's going to be bad. Sedentary, so no movement, sitting around, office desk, that kind of stuff, bad for your health. Splash, I broke this one down into a few things. So this one is like, it incorporates nature, so water, being outside, as in addition to like hydrotherapy, so hot, cold, saunas, that kind of stuff, right? Even sweating. So I put this one into that splash as well too. And then social, we know for sure from like anyone who lives in one of the blue zones. So if anyone's watching any of those documentaries, it's like, hey, social connection. I get up, I have my routine. I'm going to go check in with people, have a little coffee, have chatting, right? So social is another big part of it. And then sunlight. So I bring this up with patients and then they're kind of like, yeah, we know the benefits, like vitamin D, I'm going to get that. But they don't actually realize like what sunlight is doing to their overall health. So like, it will help your immune system. I would say probably the biggest one is circadian rhythm regulation. So like, you have these windows, we will get into it. Actually, maybe we'll get into it now. You have windows. So like, the first hour of waking, you have a sensitive time where if you expose your body to sunlight, your eyes are kind of an extension of your brain. So through the retina, it helps your body determine what time of the day it is. So what'll happen is like the body's like, okay, so many hours from this point, I'm going to feel tired. I know when to secrete melatonin and keep everything kind of going to help my overall circadian rhythm. Then you have a big window kind of like during the day. We call that like a bit of a dead zone. That's where you can go out, you can get the benefits of like feeling warm and other benefits of sunlight, but it won't influence circadian rhythm. And then you have another window around the time that the sun sets. So now it's like, hey, the retina adjusting to the decline in like the light that's being exposed to it. And then usually about like 3 to 4 hours after, depending, everyone has different genetics, but like usually 3 to 4 hours after, you're actually going to start to feel tired. And then oftentimes we're like, oh, we just got to get through that window. I got to do the laundry and put the kids to bed. And it's like, hey, if I just listen to my body, that was the time that I probably should have went down, right?
Yeah.
So this is what sunlight does as a big part of our circadian rhythm. Also influences hormones, overall mood, energy, mitochondrial health. So we'll talk about mitochondria at some point, but like I really like diving into overall mitochondria, but sunlight influences this. And then you can make tie-ins to longevity and all kinds of health benefits. So I do feel like sunlight crosses the board with one of these ones where it's like broad spectrum overall health benefits.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to talk about the light spectrum. I want to give our listeners just kind of an understanding of it, because I think, we're taught in school, they're like Roy G. Biv, this is our color, this is what we see. But there really is a lot more going on. And I think it was awesome that you kind of explained it like that it is the light and the darkness, right? It's those two components that are like so important in our overall health. So can we kind of walk the audience through the light spectrum and kind of what's happening on, like, I explained it to people as like just above or just below, right? What are those frequencies that are happening just above what you can see and just below what you can see in terms of frequency?
Yes, good question. So I always start off this with, I'm a healthcare provider. I'm not a physicist. Breaking down all the light spectrum. I try to keep it to about like 4 main categories, and then I tie them in with like what the health benefits are to this. And like, I still think this is an area that we're forever researching. Like red light therapy devices exploded within the last 5 years. Like we have like 2 big panels at the clinic, plus we have a little travel device that we bring with our kids. So like this is something that the research is continually just progressing on. So your main categories is going to be like UVB, and everyone always thinks like UVB bad, but then the funny part is I follow it up with UVB is actually the one that activates vitamin D pathways, right? So sunlight hits cholesterol and then it turns it into your active form of vitamin D. So you got to remember like, hey, yes, it might be bad for like, you're going to get a burn from that one, but again, it's about moderation. How long am I out for? That kind of stuff. So that's UVB. So those are short wavelength UV, and then you jump to UVA. These are the longer wavelengths. So these ones are ones that can like penetrate a little bit deeper into the skin, into the body. They are also known to burn a little bit. So that's why a lot of sunscreens will block kind of both, but they're definitely blocking more UVB. But some of the benefits of UVA is like blood flow, warming up the body, like nitric oxide production. So like there's lots of cardiovascular benefits and just things that will boost the immune system, lymphatic drainage, right? So when you look at this on more of like a broad scale on how like the metabolic pathways and the body is actually operating, these are things that are beneficial, right? And then you have, yes, visible light. So that's kind of the rainbow and like the colors and that kind of stuff, right? This one also is involved in like circadian rhythm setting, that kind of stuff. So this is the one where and this is the one where the body will be affected. Again, with blue light, it's all about timing, right? So you won't be as affected by it as much during the day when you're sitting there, or say like, yes, when kids, we're always trying to make sure they're not overusing their devices, but I would say like a very bad time to use devices is like in the evening, especially once the sun has already set. That is bad. We'll maybe get into some little tips that like I make our kids do on their devices if they happen to be on them late in the evening, but there's these little hacks that you can put in play so that as parents we're not freaking out all the time. But like still, again, main thing would be to like reduce any electronic exposure, especially in the evening. So that's kind of the visible light. And then you have infrared. So then this gets broken down into a couple categories, but you have like red and near infrared. This is going to be the one that a lot of the research is around the mitochondria. So this is one that will penetrate deeper into the skin. It will activate these little mitochondria that sit. Every single cell of your entire body has these little mitochondria. So I think at some point we will break these down a little bit more. But this is kind of your 4 main categories of like sunlight, the spectrum, and kind of what it does for your health. So you can make an argument that like all forms of sunlight has some sort of benefit on your body, and you just don't want to like overdo it on one or sit out in the sun too long. But it is a lot about timing and when you expose yourself to this and getting into like good little routines with the body.
Cool. And yeah, I think it's important. We're going to talk about it later, but I think, yeah, it is important for people to understand that it is the full spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. The sun gives you all these different things. And it seems to be that, that's our ancestral connection with the sun, is that it did it during these times, right? It was doing it like at sunrise. Yeah. It was giving us this high amount of red. Yep. And then, like you mentioned, as it goes on through the day and it's getting us prepared for nighttime, it'll have that blue during the day and then get us ready for the darkness, right? Correct. So I think it's really important that people understand that it is that full sun, because there is a lot of, we're going to talk about it and it's great, but there's a lot of biohacks. Yes. Nothing is like the sun, correct. Right? The sun is like the best one. So.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, can we just talk a little bit? Let's talk about vitamin D synthesis.
Sure. So I do get this question a lot where patients are asking me like, oh, is sunlight better, or should I have a supplement? The answer to that is like both are beneficial. Unfortunately, some countries like, hey, Canada, and anyone who goes through a winter and where you're not exposed to as much sunlight, you are going to have to supplement with vitamin D. This is probably one of the number one things I catch on a blood work that I run with patients.
I was just going to say, do you see a lot of patients with vitamin D deficiency? Yeah.
Correct, yeah. And I've been doing this for, again, like 14 years. And like, I thought at the very beginning, I was like, oh, everyone knows about vitamin D, right? I'm like, okay, I'll check it. And like, whoa, that one's low. Oh, another one's low. And I'm like, this is not common knowledge. And like doses are different, and like maybe skin tones and like genetics play a big factor. So sometimes when I do genetic pathways, there's 3 main genes that help activate vitamin D. So, and some people are compromised on these. So therefore they actually require like more vitamin D from a supplement. And that's where there's this big variation on people, and biohackers like, no, you need like 10,000. No, you need 1,000. Right. And it just, the dose varies. And I say, you need what you as an individual needs, and then we try to determine that based on blood work. But from a standpoint of like sunlight and vitamin D as a supplement, the molecule is structurally the same, but the difference is with sun exposure, because of all the benefits from the visible light and infrared. I have a little analogy here. So I love sports. I coach hockey. I'm at the arena probably as much as I'm at my clinic. Yeah. But my sports analogy is like, say you have like kind of like your superstar like on your team, right? So they're really good. They can go and score a goal, that kind of stuff. But the thing with, you need your other 4 teammates and your goalie to be on the ice. So if you want to win a game and be consistent, you're going to have all of those operating at the same time. So sunlight would be like, hey, I'm getting sunlight. I have my superstar on my team, but now I'm activating like the immune system, the mitochondrial pathway. So it's almost just like you're opening up all kinds of pathways in the body, and you can't just have like, here's my vitamin D supplement, I hope it makes everything better. So therefore it's like, that's the difference between like sunlight maybe helping someone with like their mood and their energy, because you activated the mitochondrial pathways, whereas vitamin D supplementation all on its own might have helped like bone health or just a few things. So I find the benefit of getting it from sunlight is a lot more, is basically robust. What it is. Yeah.
I was curious if you had, just from taking tests from people, how quickly you can raise your vitamin D levels just by going outside. Have you had like experience with that?
Yeah. And the research actually is kind of neat on this one too. So like, what research shows is the first thing is sunlight exposure will activate like different transport proteins within the body for circulating. So sunlight, it'll activate it for 2 to 3 times longer in the system. So whereas you can get vitamin D as a supplement, and then that'll just like boost those levels, but it is about sustained effects and delivering it like properly throughout the system. So yeah, there are these benefits that like you get from sunlight that necessarily you won't get from supplementation. And now vitamin D being like a fat soluble vitamin, this is one that like, yes, you can store it up in the body a little bit better, but I also tell patients like, it takes a little bit longer to raise, right? So some of the B vitamins, like, hey, I'll have those up by the end of the week. Do you know what I mean? So you'll notice those effects quicker. Whereas vitamin D, it's like it takes 3 months before I notice something from actually supplementing with it. Wow. And yeah, and people, we're in this world where we're very like tuned to quick results. It's like, hey, I have a headache. Where's my
Advil?
And it's like gone. Good. And so we're less in tune with like these delayed responses, and that's where like when I follow up with things like, oh yeah, I did say that, and no, I no longer have that. So sometimes they didn't even like tie in that it was coming from like that supplement, right? Yeah, so good question.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think we need like those systemic changes, which is why we need to go outside.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, can we take a second to go back? I know it's bear with us, stay with us for this, but can we talk about the mitochondria and kind of the powerhouse and what they mean to the body?
Yes. So here, we'll start this off with a couple things that are important to know about the mitochondria. So if everyone kind of just let's transport back to like, I think biology, maybe 10th grade is when we
where
learned
I copied all of your work.
Yeah.
Where I was sitting behind you trying to copy your work as fast as I could.
So I did like science. So the mitochondria, these are little organelles. They are found in every cell of every tissue in our body. Okay. So we're starting to realize that these little guys, they're super important. I want to break down a couple things that help the mitochondria operate. Okay. So when we get food into our system, this is going to get broken down theoretically into like electrons. Okay. So let's think food as electrons. And then we have oxygen that we breathe in. Oxygen is going to be this thing at the end of the mitochondria that is going to help accept these electrons to keep the whole cycle going. Okay. The end result of what the mitochondria are making, they're called ATP. Okay, so adenosine triphosphate, this is cellular energy that our body uses to communicate. So we get the food that's coming into the system, this gets delivered to our cells, puts it off into the mitochondria, and now the mitochondria has another little pathway. I call this for my patients like little water slides. So we have about 4 main water slides that these electrons will go down. This is called the ETC, electron transport chain. So what the body's doing, it's shuffling these electrons through these water slides, and then here's my other little analogy. So think, hey, we're going to a water park, okay? We're going down the water slide. Say you're playing a little game where like you have to hit these little levers on the side of the water slide. So as you hit each one, you're building up pressure, and then this is what's going to activate an enzyme at the end that's going to help generate these ATP. So the more of them that you can hit as you're going down the water slide, so you want the water slides to be operating properly, you want enough water, you don't want any blockages, so you're like, whoa, there's something stuck in the water slide, boom, I'm going to hit that, and now we're going to have a problem making cellular energy, right? So that is the main, like ATP is the main energy that our body's going to use. And then when you get to the end of that water slide, you're going to jump off, and that's where oxygen's like, hey, I got a towel. Do you know what I mean? Let's warm up. Let's get you back to the top, right? So it's like this efficient system that just keeps operating.
Right. Now,
you can get a couple of situations where the problem comes into play when our mitochondria get what we call gummed up. Okay, so this is where like that ETC, the little water slides, now have these blockages. Oh, maybe we're running out of water. Oh, it's getting sticky on the water slide. So now we're not as efficiently being able to go down the water slide and create that energy. Now, this is where it gets kind of complicated, right? So the mitochondria, super important for overall health. You can have things where nutritional deficiencies, right? This can gum up the electron transport chain. You can also get like just the aging process in general is going to gum up this electron transport chain. Inflammation. I think one of the biggest ones is like chemicals, environmental toxins, pesticides, heavy metals, junk that's in our water, junk that's in our air. This is all going to gum up the electron transport chain. So this is where it does get a little more complicated, because now as an individual, you have to piece apart like what is gumming up your mitochondria and like how can we help make that more efficient. And then on the flip side, the mitochondria, this is still kind of like a new area for like say testing that's available to practitioners to try to help people with this. It's still brand new. There's a couple companies we're looking into to try to be like, hey, let's test to see how efficient and well your mitochondria are operating. Currently, what we have to rely on is what we call like secondary markers and metabolites that might build up, a CRP, see how much inflammation is in the system. But I'm excited for this area because I think it'll be a game changer as to like, hey, this is where your mitochondria were functioning. We did this, and this, added some sunlight, and then see, hey, how did that affect how your overall body operates, right?
Yeah. It's gonna, I think it really does come down to those diagnostics. Like, unless you have the tools to find out what exactly the problem is, or being able to, like you said, using biomarkers, unless you can get specific, it ends up being like a process of elimination, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Like, are you moving to Alaska? Get ready, bud.
Yeah.
Amazing. Can you get into specifics? Because I think it really makes it tangible and concrete for patients and listeners to understand what might be some of the consequences of having their mitochondria not functioning optimally. What would you see in the clinic for people coming in that would, maybe would point in that direction that the mitochondria aren't functioning at optimal?
Yeah, good question. So there's lots of people out there that also use the analogy that mitochondria are kind of like these batteries. So you recharge them, they kind of help your system. I would say like number one is like a persistent fatigue, so like just low energy, lack of energy, maybe just like, hey, my workouts now feel like I'm just not pushing as well, muscle weakness, that kind of stuff, I would say is probably number one. And like any good practitioner is going to do a good blood work and be like, okay, we're going to check your thyroid, check B12, we're going to check iron. Do you know what I mean? So there's lots of factors that can influence iron, but those patients where we have tidied up a lot of that stuff, or their blood work comes back and it's like, okay, it's not thyroid,
it's clean.
And then that's where my mind goes right to the mitochondria. And so like I will put some sort of supplement in play. I'll put a protocol together of like involving sunlight, involving maybe a little nature, like helping de-stress the nervous system, getting that a little rebalanced. Maybe it's just being hyperactive. And then that's when patients come in, say like 2 to 3 months later, and they're like, I feel better in general, right? And that's how you know that like, yes, we are now kind of helping these mitochondria just operate a whole lot better. Yeah. And then the tie-in, if we want to go specific to sunlight, since we've got this analogy kind of fresh in our minds here, like what sunlight does is it's actually really neat. So it's not like getting rid of like any toxins or things out of the body, but what sunlight will do is as it hits the mitochondria, it's almost going to like supercharge the mitochondria, and it's going to get the water slides like flowing quicker and moving. Hey, we're playing that game where we're like making ATP a whole lot better, right? So it's one of these neat little like supercharges to the system. My tie into here is like, okay, we're on the water slides, we're having fun, and then all of a sudden it's like we cranked up the music and we're like, yeah, now we're going down the slide, jump in, run up to the top. So it's like, it's helping to like all the little mechanisms and pathways, and the water slides are operating efficiently. And so it's like, it's hard to like understand what did music do to our systems.
That like seems like it's magic.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't see it, but from a nervous system standpoint, it just got it ramped up. So like, that's how I kind of tie in like mitochondrial function and then what sunlight is doing to it. So it's actually not like giving a specific building block, and like you still need oxygen, you still need food, you still need electrons, but that sunlight is just giving it like this supercharge to the system.
Amazing. And I was reading a lot about it kind of like being a secondary source of food. Like you can imagine it, like I get what you're saying, that it's just like a supercharge on it, but it really does seem to be like synthesizing a bunch of nutrients too.
Yeah. And
it's so wild. It's like your skin's eating the sun. Food for your skin.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see where the research comes out on this, because it wasn't even too long ago that I didn't even know that like melatonin is present in the mitochondria, and like it does some neat things with what they're called reactive oxygen species. So this is where if those build up in the system, again, they damage things. They're kind of like a little bully and like hit this and hit that. So with keeping that kind of in mind, it's like, hey, we can have things operate like a whole lot better in the system, right?
Yeah. It's just putting that like good vibe on the whole system. It's so exciting. I think this has like been a huge, it's been a big craze. You know, we're seeing like the Ozempic craze. But can you talk a little bit how the sunlight can affect in terms of the mitochondria as well, or metabolism? So this is like a big, it's a big issue for a lot of people, and they're not really, I don't think they're understanding why the obesity epidemic is so prevalent, and what are we missing, and how might the light therapy kind of play a part in that?
Yeah. And so this is where I do think things get what I call like a little multifactorial, but like to tie into sunlight, it's like, this will help the mitochondria. It'll kind of open up different metabolic pathways in the system as well too. And then it's like, hey, if you have a little bit more energy, you can maybe push a little bit with that workout, and you're like, hey, that food prep doesn't look so bad, so like I'll prep that. Now you got some good clean food coming in. So I feel like it's all tied into like a continuum, and I do feel like kind of like helping these mitochondrial pathways, say via sunlight, via other things that we do, is a quick like long-term plan to like help people keep up with what they want to do. And if you miss that part of it, yes, they can rely on willpower and motivation. Like I can get anyone motivated for sure for 6 to 8 weeks to keep up with it, but then hey, maybe when I step back out of the picture, it's going to be like your body that you are relying on to like keep you going and moving. So yeah, there's a huge tie-in to like opening up these metabolic pathways and like helping someone lose weight and burn energy. And oftentimes it's like a lot of these people people are like, there's like hormonal balances, thyroid, there's lots of factors that might contribute to this, but
Totally.
I would say one of the number one things is like just not eating like nutrient dense foods, not having the nutrients in the system. And then it's like the body just keeps trying to put stuff in there, and it just continues to hold on to it. So that and a poorly operating nervous system, I feel is like a disaster for the body just being in a bad place.
Yeah, because when you're dealing with like a nervous system that's so out of whack, that's when like people will have like a lower willpower. They'll be reaching for like those dopamine hits. They're going for like those addictions, right? Those like obsessive compulsive behaviors, because their nervous system is so overwhelmed that they're like looking for that like dopamine hit, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit specifically about our kids? I mean, we're both parents. You've been involved in coaching. I've been teaching dance my whole life. So I think we're going to get into kind of how our environments have changed and maybe what's causing some of these poor lighting conditions and environments. But what does it mean for our kids?
Yeah. So this is one where, again, the move to the country was like pretty significant for like our family, and just like having them like run around outside, like fresh air, just open spaces, and then obviously that sunlight gets tied into this whole picture. But as kids are growing and developing, like as you guys know, it's super rapid, right? It's like we have what's called like neuroplasticity, and the brain is just like making these neural circuits at like a rapid rate. And then we do know around like, it's up for debate, but around like 20 to 25, neuroplasticity starts to like close off. And this is why it is more difficult to learn a new language and like other things. Obviously you can do it, but it just becomes a lot harder to do. So this is where like a lot of these pathways that really influence and help the body, you're going to get like a big benefit that it like, you can probably make the argument that is going to last like a lot longer in their life. So it's going to be like, hey, less susceptibility to maybe something later on. And this is why, again, exposures to maybe like certain drugs or other things, like I'm super adamant about like, hey, like get to 25, like don't become like addicted to this stuff like early in your life. Cause then, that just the neural circuits that your brain is making is, this is what's going to, again, last the rest of your life. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And when it's talking about light therapy, again, really, it is just getting them outside, right? Like it's such a simple thing. It's not like we're trying to, well, again, we're going to talk about why it's not a simple thing anymore. But it is really, it's free, it's out there. And I think you made a good point that we kind of have this window with our children where if you can get them to a certain age, having enough light experience, having enough of like that implementing on their nervous system, that they're going to be far better off.
Yes.
I'm seeing, I don't know if you're seeing this in the clinic, but I'm seeing a huge growth in my dance studio with kids expressing that they have anxiety. And I don't think I don't remember hearing about that when we were kids. Maybe we called it something different. But I'm curious as to see like how much of that having those light, and again, we talked about this before, but it's not just about not enough sun. It's having these weird timings, right? Of our extra blue light at night and not having the sunlight in the morning and not going outside enough. So, how do you think that is kind of playing on the specific situation of kids complaining that they're anxious?
Yeah, good question. So this is where I tie it back into like certain structures in the brain. So in particular, you have two that are dictating what we call like our circadian rhythms, the master clocks in the body. Not to go over anyone's head, but like the first one is called the substantia nigra. So this is one that like sets up daily rhythms and oscillations within the system. So like, believe it or not, these ones are linked to like, so they're called dopaminergic neurons, right? So this is the ones that like they'll release dopamine to kind of communicate, but like the body's synthesis, release, and even neuron vulnerability, so like the damage and stuff that can happen to the system, this is all tied back into sunlight, right? So it's like, hey, if you got that exposure first thing in the morning, that can theoretically like help calm the body, do you know what I mean? Set it up for a little bit of like a stronger, more adaptable system that can handle more and kind of get through the day a little bit better, right? But yeah, this is why it seems very simple, but like honestly, if I were to open up a school, it would be the first thing we do, get outside, right? So if you had a stressful morning, let's go get that sunlight, move around, right? And then you'll be able to get back in the class and focus and concentrate. And I feel like, sometimes again, it's like, I don't like to blame any one thing or that kind of thing, but how the system is set up is like, if you're not focusing, it's like, you're now a disruption and now it's a medication and now this, and like really it potentially, not to say that sunlight is going to fix everything, but like just by incorporating some basic principles for health, I feel like you definitely could alleviate some stuff.
Yeah. And why not try it, right? I mean, I'm knocking down the school tomorrow. Let's go. I meant like knocking down their door, not knocking down yeah, I think introducing some of these things, you know, I mean, the teachers might be so grateful for it, right? The kids might be, and you know, and I can't even say that it's not happening, because teachers are really trying.
Yes.
I think it's really important to continue to reiterate that it's multimodal. It's not
correct.
one specific thing.
Yes.
Because you know, teachers will be the first ones to say, "Oh my God, they need recess."
Yes.
Like these kids got to get out of the classroom.
And they need a break too. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. We all need the sunlight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we talked about this before, but I really want to get into because I hear this a lot, and even within my own family, until I started having this like change of understanding, there was a good time where I would, you know, I was the one slathering on the sunscreen. I was the one. I had these super, super pale kids and super pale husband, and I was really just adamant that, you know, they were going to burn. They were going to be susceptible to these sunburns. So I want to talk about UV light in terms of, you know, we don't want to be scorching ourselves.
Yeah.
There is risk when you're burning your skin. And then I also want to switch over and talk about diets and having like specific diets that are going to be helping us, you know, interpret this light therapy as opposed to, you know, being more susceptible to sunburns.
Yeah. So with this topic, I do point out that yes, sunscreen will block absorption of vitamin D. So I do think that's a big problem.
Yeah.
A good little rule is like, hey, get outside, like have maybe 10-15 minutes exposure, then put the sunscreen on, then maybe say cover up a little bit, a hat, that kind of stuff. And then we won't go dive into all the different types of sunscreens, but I do feel like your mineral based sunscreens are a lot better, less chemicals, that kind of stuff that's in them. And then in regard,
what's the comparison, like mineral versus
Aluminum, I think.
Yeah, then
aluminum.
there's because you got like your different titanium based ones, and so
Right.
basically you're looking for like a zinc one.
Okay.
The problem is like you have to reapply more frequently. They don't come in a nice spray can. Like I think there might be some now that you can, but
yeah,
it's
they're
just,
mostly like a roll on.
Yeah, and it's a little more hassle for
completely
parents.
white face.
Yes. But I can't emphasize enough that yes, I definitely don't promote like burning and staying out in the sun all day long.
Right.
And then to tie that into like kind of nutrients in the body, if you think about like, hey, there might be a little bit of damage happening to the skin, but you do get these benefits from vitamin D and what they do to the mitochondria and all that other stuff. And then if you don't have like the proper nutrients or in your system, you're not going to be able to repair that as quickly. So then you think about, hey, I'm back out in the sun again, and now I have more damage. That went a little redder. Now it's kind of like peeling a little bit, right? So you will see with like someone who has dialed in kind of their nutrients, maybe check their lab levels, that kind of stuff, they can get more of what I call this progressive buildup of like where sun exposure is not going to be as damaging to their skin. So it's more of like an adaptation that happens. I know for sure it happens with me, and I don't have to use nearly as much sunscreen, but I do modulate how much I'm out in the sun, but I do dial in my nutrients, right? So for different people it could be different things, right? It could be iron, it could be the B vitamins, the list probably goes on and on, zinc, that kind of stuff. But yeah, hopefully that answers it.
You mean like you're keeping those elevated so that you're not burning?
So I'm keeping those elevated in my system so that if say I do get like less susceptible to getting burned, or when there is damage happening, like my body can heal a lot quicker.
Right.
So you have some people, they come in, it's like, hey, I got like a cut and it took like 3 months to heal that cut.
Gosh,
and then I'm like, you are obviously lacking something. We need to figure out what that is, right? And whereas you have other people, they get a cut and they heal really quick, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. So your body's going to, and I have heard of that. It's called like a sunscreen diet type of thing.
Yeah.
But I guess you're right. If your overall system is healing faster than when you're getting a sunburn, then you're going to be healing faster from it.
Correct.
I also, you were talking about kind of progressive sun. So we don't have to talk about it too much, but I did want to talk about kind of like a solar callus. So like when you do kind of build up, or, we have friends that have like a darker skin and they can be out for way longer.
Yep.
So kind of what does that mean to the body being able to sustain longer periods of time in the sun?
So in my opinion, it would just be like, hey, you're going to get some of those benefits from it without the damage that's going to come to the system. And yeah, this would come from like, again, I'm pretty big on, we haven't talked too much about like how much exposure, but it's in like 10 to 30 minutes, right? I'm big on that morning one. If you want to do a little bit during the day to maybe boost mood, that kind of stuff, that's also good. But I tell people like, don't sit out there for like 2-3 hours at a time, right? Like I do think that's like, it can be bad for the skin depending on your skin type and that kind of stuff. Again, nutrients, all of that. But this progressive sun exposure, as you get to the fall, say like we live here in Canada, you can get to the point where you could probably tolerate incorporate like more time being out in the sun, that your body can benefit from this, right? Yeah, without getting damage.
Totally. I wanted to go, we don't have to go too much into, I know you were kind of touching on the food part, but I was reading about kind of the omega-6 versus omega-3, and how that plays a role in sun exposure and being kind of more susceptible to burning when we do have these like elevated levels of omega-6.
Yep.
Can you touch on kind of what that looks like and maybe what people should avoid?
Yes. So with Biology 101, omegas are very, very important for, like, if you think of those cells, remember how we talked about the mitochondria being an organelle inside the cell? Every cell, every outer layer of like every mitochondria is protected by what's called like a phospholipid bilayer. This is where you use the omegas to incorporate in that lipid layer. So if you have an imbalance between too much, say like omega-6 to omega-3, that layer is not going to be as protective. And this is one of the arguments that's kind of growing as to like, if your diet's lacking in omega-3, so this is like your fish, your cold water fish, that kind of stuff, you might have things that penetrate through the membrane of the mitochondria, and it's going to start causing damage and havoc as well. So even if you're being exposed to all these wonderful things, if that outer layer is not protecting you as efficiently, the body is still under pressure. So I am very big on screening for this. I'll be like, hey, how much fish do you eat? That kind of stuff. And there are supplements that you can take, and like there's different options for like vegans and vegetarians where I don't force them to go eat this stuff.
Right. I know it's hard when diets are different now,
That's
right?
Allergies,
all the things.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I make sure this is a component that is being covered, because it is a huge, almost as like a barrier or a shield to not only the cell itself, but yes, your skin cells and all of that.
Yeah, so I guess getting more of that would be like a preventative.
Correct.
Can you explain kind of how our diets have become more heavy in omega-6s, which might be an issue?
Correct. I think it comes down to like just the quality of the food. So the foods are so heavily processed.
Right.
We're growing foods like too quickly. Even the meat industry, like all of these things is just like, hey, how quick can we get it up to size, sell it, that kind of stuff. And like you really have to have the animal incorporate this stuff. So this is where, hey, at our house, like we're starting to like, we have chickens and it keeps progressing, but like it takes time, right? And if you want like the omegas and other things to be incorporated in this, it's all about like, what is that cow eating? Do you know what I mean? What are the chickens eating? And when you go to these grains and just corn and soy and stuff that is like quickly produced and cheap to produce, that's where you're going to get this imbalance in these nutrients. And it's just, obviously it's not good for the body. And I feel like we're coming to like a head with this experiment of like mono cropping and agriculture and regenerative soils, and the list goes on and on about like greenhouses and not growing stuff in soils and meat in labs. And like, don't get me going on this tangent.
I know, here we go, we're done.
But
we literally talked at the beginning of the episode. We're like, how are we going to stay on track?
Yes, but
it's hard.
You can make this big argument that like it's about the quality, and we should probably be, in my opinion, actually eating less, more nutrient dense foods, incorporating a little bit of fasting. You will get way more benefit out of the human body from that. And we're in this like abundance phase where, you know what I mean, no one has to go search for their food.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to the corner of the street and find a takeout, right? Yeah.
When I was just thinking about watching Easton fish at the camp, and I was thinking that when I was doing the research today, I was like, oh, it's genius. You got a pond with fish on your property. Because I was thinking, it really is like the best form of it, right? This is that omega-3 is getting it from cold water fish.
Cold water fish,
oh, it's so smart. Okay, I do want to switch gears. I guess this is the saddest part of the podcast today, because we have to talk about it. It has to get out there, and I think similar to our food scenario and similar to our chemicals in the water and the air, I think knowledge is power in terms of us recognizing. You said is coming to kind of this apex where like we can't go any further. This isn't working. We can see it in the human body. We're seeing it across the board. Let's switch gears and talk in terms of our light therapy. How has our kind of modern homes changed in terms of what we used to be exposed to, and again, being outside all day and being in a great light environment, to now what our modern day houses are looking like? Yeah.
I kind of umbrella this a little bit with like, I obviously am a big fan of like tech and the progression and that kind of stuff, but I think if it happens like too quickly and too rapidly of a pace, we don't get to see how it's affecting our health, right? So you can go on from like 5G to like EMFs to like from incandescent to LED bulbs, and it's like, hey, I get headaches from that, and it's like we're still trying to understand, like, is it the neurological system, is it the blood vessels, like what is it doing to our system? But like we know for sure that it's gonna screw up like circadian rhythms and overexposure and that kind of stuff. So like I do tell people, like, we want to have this balance, and this is why it's kind of good to take breaks, to get outside. Like, it may sound simple, but these are a lot of things that are a part of like treatment protocols. I'm like, hey, how long do you have on like lunch break? Do you know what I mean? Can you go eat outside, right? Can you go for a little walk? And I think these little recharges to the system can prevent it from getting to a point where it's feeling overwhelmed and just in some sort of overdrive pathway. Because I think, again, the body is like, it's super smart. It has lots of backups to like all the different pathways in the system. But if you just ride that pathway too hard for too long, it's gonna eventually show up as something like bad for your health.
Chronic.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned EMFs. I just want to talk about it briefly in terms of like what our body, you were saying circadian rhythm, but what does our body work look like, or how does our body function in these environments in non-native EMFs? So like things that we've reintroduced into our system, like technology.
I guess here we'll tie on like a little analogy here. So overexposure to say EMFs and things that are going to like overstimulate the nervous system. So the nervous system is a pathway that I talk about every single day. I draw little pictures on my whiteboard, and I tie it into like how it affects other pathways. I would say one of the biggest ones is like the digestive system. So I see like lots and lots of digestive concerns, and like no one ever thinks of this as tied back to the nervous system, right? And then I start drawing little diagrams, and I'm like, okay, when your body's in like certain states, so your two main so you have the autonomic nervous system, two main branches. One is called the sympathetic nervous system. This is like basically the go, drop them off here, pick up, eat, repeat. The other system is called the parasympathetic nervous system. This one is literally resting and digesting. So if it's in, you can't have it in like half in this system, half in this system. You will flip back and forth, right? So if you're in this like sympathetic, stressed out overdrive, your body actually secretes less digestive enzymes into your stomach, right? And this is where people will come in being like, well, this food bothered me one day and it didn't another day. And like, that's a huge cue as to like, this is probably not protein related.
Right.
This is probably not enzymatic related, like a lactose issue because you're missing lactase in the system. This is probably like a nervous system issue, right? So then I will be actually treating like the nervous system in this situation. And like, I'll get people to kind of like be a little calmer while they're eating, that kind of stuff, and then your body will naturally make more digestive enzymes. You will break your food down better, and you won't have that causing that grumbling, bloating, indigestion. So like, and this one is like, still to this day, I've been drawing this for 14 years, and it still blows people's minds, that connection. And I do come up with like little hacks. So like a little tidbit for this one is like, I would say probably one of the worst things you can do while you're eating is like watching the news or watching something stressful, having a stressful conversation. That'll put you into what I call like sympathetic like overdrive. I even think like scrolling is very bad, right? So it's like you see something, I wish I was on vacation, or how'd that person get there again, right? And now a quick way to hack this system, and you have a lot of people who will be like, okay, let's mindful eat, let's sit, it's quiet. I'm finding that people are so stimulated these days that sitting in quiet, actually like their to-do list pops up, and it's like, to-do, laundry, I didn't do this, oh my god, I gotta get this, oh my god, I forgot about the kids over here, and then that actually causes more stress.
That's wild. We're just like stuck with our foot on the pedal.
Yes, correct. So like my quick hack is like, I tell people a way to put your body over into that parasympathetic state is to watch something funny. So laughter will make you be a lot more calmer, and you will put the body into that state. So I just say, watch some funny reels, watch some funny animal videos. I like watching fishing, hockey videos that are funny, and I'm eating, laughing, right? And you will get the most out of your digestive system. But to tie it back in, you can start to see how like something like EMFs and overexerting the nervous system is going to have this widespread effect throughout the whole system. And I only broke down the digestive system, right? So you can tie that into hormones and circadian rhythm and like too much cortisol. This is going to affect melatonin, right? So it's just, it kind of goes on and on.
It was making me just think of like, it's kind of like an ancestral process. Where like if we're stressed out, you don't want to be like, oh, I gotta stop and go to the bathroom, right? Or stop and eat something. So your body is just kind of going in that like fire situation where you're stressed out and you're like, oh gosh, I gotta go do this. But I never thought of that about how much it would affect like all the other things that are functioning in your body that you really do need to be relaxed to do.
Correct.
Right? Oh, it's wild.
Yeah, I saw a study where they said food actually tastes better if you're sitting down. And I think that's part of it. If you're standing and moving around and just stuffing stuff in your face, you can't appreciate it, right?
100%. And that's like the direct tie-in is like, all like say your olfactory bulb and like all your taste, like these are all tied into the nervous system, and it's like quiet and calm. It's like, wow, that really tastes good, right? As opposed to just like mindless eating and eating on the go. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see, again, I know it's an ongoing research, but I'm interested to see how much we're going to find out that like all the allergy stuff too, right, is related to it. Because when the system's just on overload, it ends up just an inflammatory response across the board, right?
That's correct.
Okay, can we talk just switch over to light bulbs? I really thought it was interesting when I was reading about this, kind of how we've gone from our incandescent light bulb and now we've moved over to LED light bulbs throughout our houses.
And this one I do feel is definitely on like an individual basis, right? So you have people where based on their genetics, how susceptible their system is, like I call them like they're more sensitive to things, right? So like the exposure of these is going to create, again, like a lot of reactive oxygen species, like just more stress on the body in general, and then therefore it's going to like cascade and spill over into whether it's causing a migraine or other things with the body, right? Just feeling tired, fatigued, anxiety. So like it can be very individualized as to like what symptoms might present, but I find that the more of these things we have stacked up, so say like it's nutritional deficiencies plus exposure to this plus no sunlight and being sedentary, you're probably going to see the effects like a lot more on your health. But I definitely feel like this is a problem, and you start to see places switch it up and they're trying to do like bigger windows. And I know once I got a window in my office, like I definitely felt my mood was way better.
Really?
And, I'm looking at a tree and like watching even the snowfall. But there's just, these are like, they may seem like subtle and like simple, but I think they're really powerful.
Yeah. Do you think like now, again, people are typically dealing with like screens and the LEDs, high blue light. What are some like healthier practices? Maybe we could even talk about things that we can introduce into our environment that can kind of offset some of those high like blue light, lack of, the spectrum environments that we're living in.
Correct. So, obviously number one is like, hey, can we just put the devices away as the evening goes on? But like, I'm realistic. I know that like families, this is a battle, and it's like, hey, all my friends do it. I need to chat with them. I just got home from sports. Like I need to get on my device. So like, it is well known that yes, they're emitting like these blue lights, which the tie into like sleep and circadian rhythm is it's going to suppress melatonin. So what happens is melatonin starts to get trickled into the system. It will help shut the body down and promote sleep. So there's definitely glasses that you can buy. Some of them get like a little expensive. My little hack that we do is check this out. So on your screen of your phone, I put it on like that little accessory thing, but you can do, and you have to set this up though. So on my phone, what I'll do is like, it's a triple click, 1, 2, 3. And like the screen ends up going red. So this is a quick way that like you can block some of that from getting into your eyes. So I will play like some of the little games at night, but I have this filter on the screen. And like you do notice like, hey, it's not as much pressure on like the eyes, the nervous system, that kind of stuff. Like obviously I promote number one is to like give the phone a bedtime and like put that away. But like if you have to, maybe it's like, I get it, it's my only time to maybe check something, right? I would put those filters on. You can do it on any device, any screen. They don't scan as well if you're trying to do like a QR code for at things. They're like, oh yeah, sorry, I got my filter on.
I'm a vampire right now.
Yeah, exactly. But I would say that is like a simple little hack that like is free. Again, do you know what I mean? So I'm big on these free things, but set those up on like on screens and devices.
It's interesting. Annabelle said she did that on her tablet, and there's like a sepia color, so everything's more of like a brown. Yeah. And she said like when you change it at first, it's like, oh, everything just looks like brown and weird. But now she's like, I've done it like that for so long, I just see all the normal colors in that spectrum.
Very cool. Yeah.
Wow. Your brain just starts to like go back to it.
It just gets used to it and it knows what everything is.
Yeah, I found that with my game. Awesome. So I have a game where I connect like colors and stuff. Yeah. And then at the first I was like, oh, I screwed that up. Oh, I screwed that up again. And then eventually it's like, it was fine. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, and then can we talk about red light panels a little bit? I know people are starting to introduce these in the environment. Every day I see a new one coming out of now people are doing it across their whole face, like a red face mask to stop aging.
I've seen them like inside hats to grow your hair.
Grow your hair back. Yeah. So what do you think?
So it depends what you're using it for. What I tell patients is it comes down to like two different variables. This is definitely operating on like that infrared spectrum, so ones that are penetrating deeper into the skin. I am a big fan of them. We have a couple big panels at the clinic. We have a little travel one that we take around to tournaments, that kind of stuff. The research does say you have to use it quite frequently. So it's like 3+ times a week to notice benefit. So it's not like I did it once and now like my body's healed. Yeah. So it's kind of like, again, like sunlight exposure, keep doing it.
Yeah, you're gonna get it's a healing therapy.
Yeah, that's right. So I would definitely say from soft tissue, accelerating wound healing, helping the mitochondria, that kind of stuff, you're definitely going to notice this boost. As for stuff for like hair, I think the research is still kind of out on that one, but it's progressing, right? And we're going to learn more. And
it makes sense though if we're outside, like all the things are showing, right?
That's right.
So it makes sense that it would help in all those things.
Correct. And then I always put this out there for like anyone who's trying to biohack stuff and help their health is like trust the company, know that they're using the proper frequencies and like the device is actually doing that, because like you would have no way to tell if it was just like red light shining something or if it was actually emitting the proper wavelengths and stuff for your actual health. So just make sure it's a good trusted company.
Cool. Anytime I've had this discussion with people, the argument is always, we live in Canada, it's freezing cold. What are some strategies that people can use? Or maybe for me, anytime I'm suggesting it to clients, my suggestion is always go out in it. It's amazing for you,
Yes.
So can you talk about some of the benefits of going outside and having these cold exposures, or maybe just some other ways that people can get this sunlight when we're dealing with kind of our seasonal changes?
Okay, good question. So we do know with sunlight to get the benefit of like different wavelengths and parts of the full spectrum. It will be dependent on like how thick some of the clothing is. Even the color of the clothing has been studied, but you do want like thinner, do you know what I mean, material, that kind of stuff, and like lighter colors. It will penetrate through, especially like that infrared type light. Well,
I typically wear black at work, and I was outside working on some siding. And it was sunny yesterday, and I could really feel like just the heat of the sun absorbing into that black coat. I'm like, does that help, or is the black actually not beneficial?
Yeah, good question. So from my knowledge of this, and again, like I don't know the research inside and out on this, I would assume from like a thermal heat perspective that black is definitely going to heat up more, but it will probably block certain ranges of the light, say the ones that might help the mitochondria, that kind of stuff. It'll definitely block like UVA and UVB and that stuff, right? But you'll get, again, it's almost like, what is the benefit? Do we want this to like warm up and stay warm while we're working outside?
Or infrared, right? Or heat.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm kind of picturing it similar to the discussion we were having about melanin, like how like your tan will end up doing that exact same thing. It's trying to block out the UVB, the potentially harmful UVC, UVB. And then also it's keeping in that infrared, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
People that have that kind of darker pigmentation, just like our colors of our clothes, is going to be a lot more susceptible to bring in infrared but block out those UVs, which is that's exactly what we want to do.
Yeah, correct.
Black clothes only. Black dress code. I love it.
Well, another thing I thought was interesting, like as we're talking about being inside our climate controlled houses, if you're just sitting around, you can even start to feel cold, even in like this perfect temperature controlled environment. That just happened. I was setting up the computer before you came over. And then I just went outside to scrape some ice off the driveway, and just getting out there and doing that, doing some physical exercise, like being out there in the sun, cold sun though, but still sunlight, like that just warms up your inner core temperature. I came back inside and I took my sweater off, and you're warm again, right? Yes,
100%. And this is why the benefits are so widespread, in my opinion, with sunlight. That's why it makes those 7 S's. And to touch on like the cold, hot stuff. Like I could probably go on and on about that, but I am a fan of like whether it's saunas and ice baths, and even like just you can do it with your shower. So like a contrast shower, hot and cold. These are ways to like just open up circulation and that kind of stuff. I think it's most beneficial if you do it outdoors. Do you know what I mean? In nature, and therefore it's like you're doing a little circuit out there. But yeah, you see lots of people with going out there in the snow and doing that, and then jumping back in the hot tub. But like I think the added benefit of sunlight plus nature, this is where I really feel like a lot of magic happens. And again, lots of research always still coming out on this stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, I just wanted to talk kind of some realistic changes for people. I think it can be really intimidating, right? I mean, you have people that are getting up before the sun comes up, they're at work, they're getting off work when the sun is already down. So what are some things, realistic changes that people can make for their family to have some of these benefits?
Yes. Aside from like shift workers, I think they are like a whole new ball game. Like I struggle with them. We have to put certain protocols in play, read the individual, that kind of stuff. I would say just in general, for if you get up before the sun is actually up, I'm pretty big on like these, they're called like little light machines. So these are not ones that they won't give you vitamin D, they won't do that kind of stuff, but they'll give you around 10,000 lux. They're mimicking like visible light. So this is the one that the eyes and the retina will pick up on for circadian rhythm. I think those are definitely useful to use. I personally use one, so it sits beside the coffee machine. I will put that on. Indirect exposure for like maybe like 5 minutes, do you know what I mean, will show some benefit. I think that it's maybe 5 or 10, right? But like I'll just walk around the kitchen, make the protein shakes, do this, make the coffee, and like that exposure will help my body determine what time of day it is, and then it knows, hey, so many hours later I'm gonna feel tired. But if you don't do that, and then you say go from like dark into an office, like poor LED lights and like things that are really bugging the body, your body might not be able to tell like what time of day it is, right? And then you throw some caffeine in the mix and like screw it up even more. You're just gonna repeat this cycle over and over, and then wonder why, like, hey, why do I struggle and I'm not tired at night and I feel wired but I can't fall asleep? So yeah, that little light machine, they're super inexpensive. You're just looking for 10,000 lux. Again, I'm not super particular on a brand for this one because it's just kicking off like visible light is what it's doing.
Amazing. And then I think just some like during the like cold winter months or during the day. So I think the morning one is so important to wake your body up like that. And then some things that people can do maybe during the day, or especially for maybe their kids. What are some practices that they could start implementing right away?
Yes. I usually pitch it in the sense that like, okay, run me through your morning routine. And I will pair things that they already currently do with outside. So even if you have a balcony, like you don't have to have anything fancy, but just like take that coffee, take that tea, take that book, like whatever it is, just get outside. And it's like within the first hour of waking, I would say ideally the first half hour, but like within the first hour, you're going to get like some really big benefits to the body. And again, it's only like 5 or 10 minutes that you need to be out there, right? So yeah, and pair it with something else that you currently do. I think that's the easiest way, rather than being like, okay, I got to add this to my morning routine. I already make breakfast. And I'm going
out for a inline skate in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do suggest the same things to people. I'm just like, if you're going to, if you sit and have a coffee, try to do it outside, bundle yourself up.
Yeah.
I also think it's really important for people to understand it doesn't need to be like any direct, like we were talking about. It really can be, completely bundled up. Yeah. You're still getting a lot of light and it's going through your clothes and it's penetrating. So anytime you can spend outside, even like working outside, now, like if you're going to sit on your phone, like go do it outside, right? Correct. Bundle up and go outside and do it. So I think that's really important as well.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, how about sunglasses?
Oh, yeah, good question. That didn't pop up. Yeah. So again, like sunglasses, super important, especially for working out there, being prolonged periods of time, that kind of stuff. But I will say, like that first morning exposure, like you do not want sunglasses on, right? So that's what's going to help determine circadian rhythm, get it into the retina, and like help activate all those parts of the brain. So I would say the first part, no, but again, working out there a long period of time, for sure, I would say put them on.
I used to wear them all the time, and I like the look of them, whatever. And I just heard that it wasn't good to wear it all the time. It's good to have your eyes. So I just try not to as much as I can. Yeah. And I really noticed a difference. Like even I can go outside in like the middle of the afternoon and I just feel like I don't need it. I'm not looking straight at the sun, but I just don't really need the sunglasses anymore. Like my eyes can process that bright light, and it's fine.
Yeah. And again, I tell people apply common sense to a lot of stuff, right? You'll get a long way. But like, again, if
they're
you're
like,
exactly. Like they're staring at it. Hey, I'm trying to get the benefit. And if you're on things that like, if you are sensitive to it, like obviously you shouldn't be squinting and feeling like it's irritating or causing headache, but gauge this stuff, right?
Yeah. And then again, we have talked about it through the podcast, but just reducing blue light at night. You talked about some great strategies for, augmenting your screens or to completely getting rid of them so that you have like that melatonin coming in at night and being really helpful for the darkness and being able to sleep, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like it is when a lot of stuff sometimes around this comes down to mindset. So it's like if I give my phone a bedtime always at like 9 o'clock, it's like you get used to that. At first, the first couple of weeks, it's like, oh, where is it? Do you know what I mean? Because I'm in a habit, and you're trying to make that new association. But like if you simply just give your phone a bedtime, do you know what I mean? It can get put away a lot earlier. And then I would say for like the one-offs and stuff, do put those filters on there, and that's an easy hack. And then again, like there's glasses and stuff that you can buy, but then it progressively gets more expensive.
Yeah. Walking around in a bubble.
Yeah.
I think too, it's really important, like you said, the mindset of people understanding that this is a benefit, right? I think like, especially us growing up, it was like the introduction of the sunscreen, the introduction of the, the sunglasses and having the sun be this problematic thing for us. So I think even that for me was this big moment, 4 months ago where I started listening to some of these studies and being like, oh my God, like I've been doing all these, brutal things for my kids and myself. So
yeah, we completely changed like the last time we went on vacation, how our relationship with the sun, I guess. So we kind of went to long sleeves when we could because we're white and we're in Mexico in the sun, right? And so we would do long sleeves. We'd wear swim shirts when we're swimming. And
because we were out for like, hours and hours and hours on the beach. Yeah.
Kind of minimal sunscreen as possible, wear a hat instead.
And I think too, you had mentioned at the top of the episode, timing, right? Really being understanding that there's so much documentation now. People can go on the internet and kind of look at when the sun is like a stronger sun, right? Like in the summer, depending on the season or depending on the time of day.
Yes, that's right.
So really look at the sun, and if you're going out at like 3 or 4 o'clock, you don't need sunscreen. Yeah, that's the time to go enjoy it, right? And get that like 3 p.m. sun where it's going to be super beneficial, and you don't need the sunscreen in the glasses.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You were kind of talking about our vacation, but can you just speak to, your own personal experience, how you've noticed the difference in your family since you've made it such a priority in your life?
So I would say even just like nature in general. So I do kind of lump like nature, trees, that exposure into sunlight as well too. But like mainly personally from like a nervous system standpoint, I would find like, hey, I'm rushing around a lot. I like being involved in sports and like running the clinic and that kind of stuff. But like some days my nervous system would almost feel like it's like buzzing, like my head might be spinning a little bit. And it's like, hey, how do I like recharge this so that I can continue to do what I like and not feel like frustrated or that kind of stuff. But I would say like incorporating a morning routine of like getting outside and like just a quick walk to the barn, walk back, or even have a coffee, sit outside on a porch, a deck, that kind of stuff. Like these are things that will like build up your tolerance for like your nervous system not getting as easily overwhelmed. And then when it is feeling like it's buzzing, also putting it in at that time too. So I do try to make sure like, hey, I get home, I'll kind of do like a quick thing outside. Like I'm infamous for like just getting lost in the backyard.
You're like, wasn't your dad home an hour ago?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was. I saw his car, but never saw the body.
Yeah. and then you come back just feeling recharged, right? And then I'm like ready for like to keep going, right? Yeah. So I do feel like just nature, sunlight across the board, it has like these big benefits to like recharging the nervous system, and like whether you want to lump that into the grounding and like get into all of that stuff, right? But I don't think anything is going to replace like true nature, true trees, dirt, grass, that kind of stuff, like walking around barefoot where like applicable, not at like a park or areas that you don't know.
Right.
But these things are like underutilized, and think about it, like they're free. You just gotta find spots to go.
I know, that's the title of our podcast. The sun is free medicine. So yeah, I definitely I agree. We've had like such a huge change in our family, being making it a focus, and making sure that we're getting outside enough, getting the sunlight, and I think anyone would admit, if you're really being honest with yourself, your kids are different kids. your, you know, relationships are different. Your mindset is different. I went down this rabbit hole of just like how much your scattered brain is associated with not having that, like, you know, that nervous system being in a calm state. So, as like a personal experience, it really does like change your life when you start introducing these things.
Correct.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This has been so informative. I hope our listeners got lots of great information and things that they can apply right away. I would also like to invite everyone. We are doing a seminar. We're partnering with you and Inspire Health Niagara, also the Niagara Salt Caves, Kelly Greens, and BY Honey Farms in St. Catharines or Niagara on the Lake. And we're getting together to do an immunity seminar. Yes. So this is really exciting. It's the first one we've done here at Infinite Motion. We're so excited for the partnership between the studio and Kenneth. So yeah, if you are interested, check it out. It's on our website. I will drop all the links underneath the podcast. And yeah, thanks for coming.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and you'll never miss a podcast.
Good night.
Good night.